And WION's correspondent Jody Cohen spoke to the former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert on various topics, including the situation in the Gaza Strip and as to how attacking Rafah at this moment, the southernmost habitation in the Gaza Strip, would be a pretty big risk for Israel, which it cannot afford, and also what might be his strategy in the war, considering that there are still about 134 Israeli hostages that are still in the captivity of Hamas in Gaza. Listening to what the former Israeli Prime Minister had to say.
So former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, thank you for speaking with WION. Now, you've been quoted as saying that a Rafah attack is a risk that you believe Israel cannot afford to take. Why do you believe that to be the case?
Well, right now, as you probably heard, there was a terrible disaster in the center of Gaza, and there is a charge against Israel that we are responsible for killing 100 civilians that were rushing to get the humanitarian supply there. And as a result, the Egyptians already announced that Israel is responsible, the IDF is responsible for the killing of 100 civilians. And this is a major blow to the relations between Israel and Egypt. This is just an introduction to what may happen if and when Israel will take a massive counteroffensive in Rafah. And this is what scares me. I think that we have reached a point where we have to ask ourselves, and I don't know that I have the only possible answer, but I definitely have a question. Do we need the next phase in Rafah to the interest of the strategic security interest of the state of Israel? Or we may find that the cost of this operation may be very expensive for the interest of Israel. And one of the possible outcomes of this is the reaction of Egypt, which is very, very unhappy with this option. So we have to find out and see what may be the possible benefits to Israel from this operation. Are we going to kill what? How many more Hamas terrorists we are going to kill? How many non-involved civilians may be victims as a result of this operation? How many Israeli soldiers are going to be killed? And what will be the outcome, the bottom line of this operation in terms of the wider interests of Israel and the relations between Israel and Egypt? So I think that needs to be very carefully measured by us, and we should listen to the warnings coming from Joe Biden, the American administration, and equally also to the request of the Egyptians to be very careful before we take any such step.
So what would your strategy be given the circumstances that there are still 134 Israeli hostages being held captive in Gaza?
I don't think that the operation in Rafah, if such an operation will take place, will make any difference to the fate of the hostages. We need to reach an agreement with about the hostages, probably brokered by Egypt and the Qataris and also the Americans, which we are, I guess, an attempt is being made while we talk. If there will be such an agreement, most likely the conditions will be very unpleasant to Israel. I mean, one doesn't need to be very smart to understand that the Hamas will request conditions sine qua non, that Israel will stop the fighting, at least for a long period of time. I don't know if forever, but for a long period of time, maybe months, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months. And we will have to decide then, if we don't do it, are we going to lose all the hostages and receive them at the end of the day dead in coffins rather than live walking? So I think that this is the kind of dilemma that we face. I think that my personal judgment is that our obligation to save the lives of the hostages is superior to anything else, and therefore, if the condition for having an agreement that will bring us the hostages is end of the fighting, then we have to accept it. We won the military confrontation anyway. We have defeated them. They are beaten. They are bleeding. Most of their bankers and command positions and launching pads and the fighters are dead and destroyed. We killed, at least according to our judgment, more than 10,000 fighters of the Hamas. This is an unbelievable military achievement. We can, I think, declare at this point that we won, and we can afford ourselves to bring it to an end if that will save the life of the hostages.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.